Donald Trump's top propagandist, Caroline Leavitt, just wrapped up a disastrous press conference in the Oval Office. She was bragging that Donald Trump will visit Alligator Alcatraz, where migrants can get eaten by alligators in the Everglades. She started attacking Canada and saying Canada caved. She held this list that Donald Trump posted on his social media of other countries that Donald Trump says are doing better than the United States because they have lower interest rates than we do. And she then started attacking the chairman of the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell. This was one of the most humiliating pressers we've seen yet. Here she is holding that list and just naming a bunch of countries and saying, look at all these countries. They're doing great and America's doing bad. And she lists all these countries that are nowhere near where the United States is. Here, watch this.
And if you look at this chart, this is a chart of all of the interest rates of many countries throughout the world. At the top is Switzerland. They're only paying a quarter for interest rates. Cambodia, Japan, Denmark, Thailand, Botswana, Barbados, Taiwan, Bulgaria, Cuba, Sweden, Morocco, Cabo Verde, South Korea, Algeria, Canada, Albania, Libya, Malaysia, China, New Zealand, Trinidad and Tobago, Czechia, Bolivia, Australia, Costa Rica, the Bahamas, Kuwait, Papua New Guinea, Bosnia, United Kingdom, and the UAE are all paying lower interest rates than the United States of America, which has one of the hottest and strongest economies in the world.
Just so you can zoom in on it, here's what Donald Trump actually sent the chairman of the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell. He said, Jerome, you are as usual too late. You have cost the U.S. a fortune and continue to do so. You should lower the rate by a lot. Hundreds of billions of dollars being lost. No inflation. The Trump regime claims that there's no inflation right now, and all the data shows that inflation is rising. Here she is talking about Alligator Alcatraz, where migrants can get killed and maimed by alligators in the Everglades, and Trump's visiting there. Play this clip.
On a scheduling note, tomorrow, President Trump will travel to the great state of Florida to attend the opening of a new illegal alien detention center located at Dade Collier Training and Transition Airport alongside Secretary Kristi Noem, Governor Ron DeSantis, Congressman Byron Donalds, and other state and local leaders. We hope to see many of you there. The facility is in the heart of the Everglades and will be informally known as Alligator Alcatraz. There is only one road leading in, and the only way out is a one-way flight. It is isolated and surrounded by dangerous wildlife and unforgiving terrain. The facility will have up to 5,000 beds to house, process, and deport criminal illegal aliens. This is an efficient and low-cost way to help carry out the largest mass deportation campaign in American history.
A reporter asked Caroline Leavitt, what's going on with any of these trade deals? You said that there would be deals in 2 weeks. Like 80 days ago at this point, and there have been really no deals. What's happening? Play this clip.
We've been hearing from White House officials for weeks that you're close on trade deals with a number of countries. Can we get any update on which countries will have deals by the 9th and when there may be any announcements?
I'll let the president and the trade team speak on it.
She goes, I'll let the president speak on it. Donald Trump then posted, to show people how spoiled countries have become with respect to the United States of America, and I have great respect for Japan. They won't take our rice, and yet they have a massive rice shortage. In other words, we'll just be sending them a letter, and we love having them as a trading partner for many years to come. That's when Donald Trump says that he will unilaterally impose tariffs on nations by sending them a letter. Here, Caroline Leavitt is asked, well, French President Emmanuel Macron is at a UN meeting where he's stated that tariffs are a form of blackmail. Watch her response and just watch her facial movements when this is taking place. Here, play this clip.
So President Macron of France earlier today said that tariffs levied by powerful countries are often a form of blackmail, and criticized the sort of process that's underway. Didn't mention the United States specifically, but said that these tariffs are really hurting developing countries. So there's this big UN conference going on. What do you say to that? What is the president, was he aware of that comment, and do you have any response?
I think the president and the White House would certainly reject that characterization by Prime Minister Macron. Tariffs are an effective use of presidential power to bring back the middle class, to bring back our manufacturing industry, which was the backbone of our American economy and has been hollowed out by globalist politicians who have caved to foreign countries instead of doing what's right for American workers.
She then is asked why Donald Trump doesn't fire Jerome Powell, and here's her response. Let's play it.
The president has not been shy about acting on things that he believes in. Why not just fire Jerome Powell and put in somebody that is going to lower rates? Why wait?
Well, it's a good question and one you can ask the president because that's a decision for him to make. But you're right to point out the politicization of the Fed, and it's very unfortunate for our country. But Jerome Powell cut rates numerous times ahead of the election when Joe Biden was in this Oval Office, but now he refuses to, and the economy is in a much better place. So there really isn't a good explanation for that, and the president is rightfully calling attention to it.
Thank you.
Kelly.
So in trying to move the negotiations forward with the United States, Prime Minister Mark Carney temporarily paused the Digital Services Tax Act, which received royal assent in Canada in 2024. That apparently Donald Trump just found out about this past week. So Carney says, look, okay, as part of a comprehensive deal, we will press pause on that tax, but let's have negotiations, Donald. And then what does Caroline Leavitt and Trump do? They then mock Carney for doing that. And they go, Carney caved, Canada always caves to the United States. It's why I've said this before. You can't do deals with the Trump people because all they think a deal is you surrendering and humiliating you and disrespecting your sovereignty. There's no path to doing a deal with the Trump regime. And here's a prime example. Play this clip of what he said about Carney.
First, what's the president's reaction to this? Can you tell us more about his call with Prime Minister Carney over the weekend? How did he get Carney to drop it? And also, what's the impact on American tech companies given this latest progress as the president says he has been fighting for American tech companies?
It's very simple. Prime Minister Carney in Canada caved to President Trump in the United States of America. And President Trump knows how to negotiate, and he knows that he is governing the best country and the best economy in this world, on this planet. And every country on the planet needs to have good trade relationships with the United States. And it was a mistake for Canada to vow to implement that tax that would have hurt our tech companies here in the United States. The president made his position quite clear to the prime minister, and the prime minister called the president last night to let the president know that he would be dropping that tax, which is a big victory for our tech companies and our American workers here at home.
Leavitt is then asked about the estimate by the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office that the deficit will increase by nearly $3.3 trillion. Here's what Leavitt says. Let's play it.
Well, can you respond to the CBO estimate that the Senate bill would increase the deficit by nearly $3.3 trillion?
This is one of the most fiscally conservative pieces of legislation that has ever made its way through Capitol Hill. There's $2 trillion in mandatory savings in this bill. And not only that, the projected growth that this bill will bring to our economy. It will be an economic boom. The Council of Economic Advisors has an analysis that shows that the bill will generate $4.1 trillion in economic growth, and it will cut taxes, putting more money back into the American people's pockets. That's why this president wants this bill to pass. And I know he's busy working the phones and doing what he needs to do today to make it happen. So we'll see you all later. Thank you. We'll see you in Florida tomorrow.
Leavitt doesn't even know what's in the bill, which indeed adds a 10 to 20% tax on wind and solar energy projects. And it will be devastating for new technology. But watch Caroline Leavitt's response. Let's play it.
Go ahead.
Thanks, Caroline. Does the president support this new measure in the big, beautiful bill that would impose steep new taxes on new wind and solar projects?
I believe you're referring to the credits for wind and solar projects.
And what, we're talking about the new tax. There's a new tax that it's estimated would add 10 to 20% to the cost of any new wind and solar projects that start after this year.
Again, I don't want to comment on the specifics of provisions, but I'm sure the president will speak on that directly. Again, this is an ongoing process. The president continues to be very much engaged with the leadership in both the Senate and the House to get this bill back to his desk.
Did the president ask for that provision? Because the National Building Trades Union is saying that it's the equivalent of terminating more than 1,000 Keystone XL pipeline projects. Is that something that would concern him?
Well, the president spoke on this yesterday in his interview, and he said he understands that legislators want to protect jobs in their communities and in their districts. And so he understands why some of them are against this provision, but he also understands why people want the provision. So again, this is an ongoing deliberation and discussion, and the president is engaged in this very much.
Caroline Leavitt then attacks MAGA Republican Senator from North Carolina, Tom Tillis, who was very outspoken against the bill and voted no. And then Trump said that he should be primaried. And Tillis then said, I'm not going to run for election anymore. And Tillis said, you're going to kill 700,000 people in North Carolina by removing them from Medicaid. Here, play this clip.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Caroline. On the reconciliation bill, Senator Tillis from the floor yesterday seemed to suggest President Trump was getting bad counsel on the effects of the bill. Is President Trump aware of the analyses, and there are several of these, that suggest if rural hospitals potentially close, if there are Medicaid patients in the millions that become ineligible for that?
Yes, and that claim is just simply untrue. Rural hospitals comprise 7% of all hospital spending on Medicaid, and that illustrates that they have not benefited from the massive increase of waste, fraud, and abuse under the Biden administration. So this bill strengthens Medicaid. It will protect those benefits that hardworking Americans need, and that's why the president wants this bill to pass. The senator was wrong. The president put out a Truth Social post addressing it, and then the senator announced he's no longer running for office anymore. So I think that case has been closed, and the White House is continuing to focus on getting this legislation to the president's desk for his signature.
And then Caroline Leavitt brags about Donald Trump telling Israeli courts not to prosecute Netanyahu when Netanyahu was already being prosecuted because Donald Trump extorted Israel and said, we're not going to give you weapons if you continue to prosecute Netanyahu. Here, play this clip.
Thank you, Caroline. The president has been calling for a deal in Gaza for 2 days and many posts. Who is blocking the deal? And one other thing, when he posted on Netanyahu's trial, also, he said it interferes with the negotiations on Iran and on Gaza. What did he mean by that?
I'm sorry, to your second question?
The second question, when he posted about the Israeli Prime Minister trial,
yes,
he said it interferes with the negotiations on Gaza and on Iran. What did he mean by that?
It interferes because it physically and logistically was interfering. The prime minister was slated to go to court last week when he's in the middle of negotiating a peace deal and bringing hostages out of a war-torn region. And so the president was simply, I think, emphasizing his empathy that he has for Bibi Netanyahu and seeing him go what he's going through with his own judicial system in the state of Israel. Clearly, the president knows that very well. He, too, was a victim of a judicial system that was trying to put him in jail. As you all know, you all covered it, but President Trump prevailed. That's why he's back in the Oval Office, and he believes that Bibi Netanyahu is a great leader for the people of Israel. The president just worked with him closely to end that 12-day war and to obliterate Iran's nuclear facility, to take out that imminent threat, not just to the state of Israel, but also to the United States of America and the rest of the world. And he believes that Prime Minister Netanyahu should be praised for that.
And finally, she's asked a basic question. Who's the buyer on TikTok that Donald Trump claims exists? And she's like, oh, there are very high level conversations. They're so high level, I really can't get into it, but they're so high level. Here, play this clip.
And on TikTok, if you could real quick, he said yesterday he's got a buyer, but the question there is, does he have a seller? And do you have any indication from the Chinese government that they've authorized a sale of TikTok to the U.S. or to U.S. buyers?
What I can tell you is that these discussions with China regarding the sale of TikTok have been ongoing at the highest level, and they will continue. As you know, we have another 90-day extension, and it's just to continue to work out this deal and make sure that TikTok stays on for the American people. That's the president's main goal in this, while protecting their privacy and their security.
Meanwhile, Donald Trump was posting the following today. I apologize for the long wait on the Faith Leaders conference call. AT&T ought to get its act together. Please pass along the word to tens of thousands of people who are there. We may have to reschedule the call, but we'll use another carrier the next time. AT&T obviously doesn't know what they're doing. And then he posts again, I'm doing a major conference call with faith leaders from all over the country, and AT&T is totally unable to make their equipment work properly. This is the second time it's happened. If the boss of AT&T, whoever that may be, could get involved, it would be good. There are tens of thousands of people on that line. Trump doesn't know how to use the phone, and he's blaming it on the boss of AT&T, while Caroline Leavitt, his propagandist, is talking about Alligator Alcatraz. That's where we are in the United States. And by the way, to our Canadian Maple Meidas, again, I don't know how I understand that Carney wants to try to figure out something that will ultimately benefit Canada, but just you see Trump's behavior. It is impossible to do a deal with this felon, with this fraud, with this sexual abuser. Can't do it. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 6 million.
Can't get enough Meidas? Check out the Meidas Plus Substack for ad-free articles, reports, podcasts, daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, and more. Sign up for free now at MeidasPlus.com.